It's wonderful to meet together with you, Matteo. I've been following you on LinkedIn for I don't know how long, maybe a couple of years. I was looking at you doing your blueprint for growth. And I understand that you started out as a typical kind of finance guy. And of course, early in my career, you types used to scare the wits out of me. I was in organizational development, and you guys had all the right numbers. And I really had to, walk circles. Instead of my typical A to Z, it was A, B, C. And you really kept me in a discipline that I wasn't accustomed to. And at first it was really intimidating. But over the time of my career, I have come to depend on the CFO and the value that that role brings to an organization. And from my point of view, you embody that. So I think what was really troubling me early was that most of the CFOs I ran into just thought their job was to report out the monthly cycles and to let people know that they needed to build more business or whatever. Sales are down. What's the matter with you? It wasn't really a very effective role. And now I just look at you and I think you're the epitome of the person I would have had to work for and with early in my career. So, but how did you start out, and what was your pathway to, coming out of school and getting all that education, quote unquote, and kind of evolving into who you are today?
Oh, thank you so much, Marsha, for your introduction. In actual fact, I really resonate so much with what you're saying because many people feel intimidated by finance. Why? Why should they be intimidated by finance? In actual fact, finance plays a really vital role in wealth creation. And in actual fact, that's what I found in my career. I found that when business fail is because either finance is absent or the financial guy is not really using the financial intelligence that they should use to actually help a business. Yeah. So in actual fact, I started my career about 31 years ago. I used to actually work as a clerk, as a junior initially. Got very passionate about potentially really making a difference to businesses. Initially, it was about doing some research on some special, tax rule that could have helped the business to recover some money. I remember back then I was really working on putting invoices into the system, dealing with supplier payments and etc. And I really help a lot. I really help a lot of people, but at the same time, I learned a lot. Because I always said, well, you have to learn and you have to earn at the same time. So that's my
That's right, right, right.
that's my advice for many many people. So
Yeah, keep earning while you're learning, right? Don't try to do one without the other.
and only after you learn, then you can just think about, okay, maybe I need to take a risk as well. So yeah, I've done 30 years across startup, scale up, stagnation, crisis, and exit. So in each one of those 5 stages, you find a different type of lesson, and you got exposure to both successful and quietly failing profitable businesses. And this is one of the big secret I was always trying to uncover. Why do profitable businesses, okay, fail? And the answer was almost always because lack of financial intelligence, or maybe financial intelligence was not strong enough in a business to prevent a failure. So that obviously changed completely my thinking about finance, and I thought, well, we have to do a lot more than just really, recording the past. We have to actually engineer the future, and that's how I came to my journey, really.
That's very interesting. I noted that you came to the understanding that it wasn't just numerical, but you're looking at behaviors also, the leadership behavior, I suppose, or the board or whoever you're dealing with, and also structural in the organization. Was there a specific situation where you got that, oh my Lord, this is what's really wrong here, and this would make the difference? Can you speak to like a personal kind of aha moment where you saw that on the job in a specific place or industry?
Yeah, we always move from theory to practice, and you tend to think, oh well, if you follow the book, if you follow the playbook, you're gonna be successful. Nothing is gonna stop you, and that's what many people think. Now, that's actually, the aha moment really came when I was working for a really successful business. We were unstoppable. I was actually still a junior at that time. I was a financial controller. So I was working in one of those countries, like, in Spain, and Italy in particular. So I was actually, at that time, I was really, doing all my work with the auditors. I was doing the traveling. I was training my finance staff to be successful. And the business was growing really fast. When eventually we found that, quite slowly the business was making too many promises to its customers. They were effectively making promises that make, the working capital work too much harder. So they were promising the customer, okay, we're going to give you an active negotiation position, so we're going to give you whatever product you want, because you love us so much. And I remember the finance director there, who was my boss. He was just actually, doing also some of the meetings with those customers. Well, what happens was, the business went from a valuation of $600 million listed on the stock market. I left the business, and after a couple of years, it went to zero, actually below
Yeah.
zero.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Banks could not even recover the money. It's what I call over trading. Is
Mm.
lack of really financial intelligence when you grow too fast. So what I always
Yes.
say,
Go ahead.
yeah, what I'll say is growth without structure is really what I call it velocity towards risk. Yeah. So you're going faster and faster towards a very risky phase of the business, really. So that was a big moment for me, I have to say, really.
That's a great example. I've actually seen an example of that myself, where sales was making a lot of promises to their key customers, and the manufacturing had to, like, really customize all of their product. And it was a failing proposition, just for the reason that you're saying. You can't fulfill that over time. You just are losing on everything you're producing. So it doesn't work. But that's a great example. So out of this, you came to see that something else was needed, and you came up with this idea, this triangle, this high valuation triangle. Can you explain a little bit about what that is, and what were the aspects of that you found important in consulting with businesses as a finance expert?
Well, the eye valuation triangle was a response to a big question. Why do so many businesses fail even when they follow the playbooks? Even last week, I found another big business, $3 billion, failing. They were profitable, fast growing. They just didn't manage the working capital. So I came up with this recipe. I started 9 years ago in 2017 after studies I made on failure. And the goal was really to build businesses that are chased by investors, they are chased by customer, and they are chased by banks, because they possess the qualities needed to sell, to be in the market very well, to have longevity in the market, but also to be invested and to receive the right funding when they need it. So
So let me just summarize that just for a second. So you started looking into what made businesses bankable, who was attracting capital, and who was building customers. So those were the kind of things that you started looking at. What made them really investable? Is that kind of the focus?
yeah, it's almost like reverse engineering, find out what investors wants, what bank wants, what customer wants, what customer, obviously this is a non-financial subject, but customer, they want to buy from a business that has a lifetime value proposition, not a transactional proposition. So, and these were the three biggest, let's call it another triangle. On top of the triangle, the actual high valuation triangle is made on the three reasons why a business is attractive to this audience. Do you want me to tell you more about these three pillars as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, do. I need to know more about the triangle and how you're conceptualizing it now.
Now, the first pillar is intellectual property monetization. Now, this is a major revelation for so many businesses. Just giving an example, I was actually working on a consulting business valuation. They came up with a valuation of EBITDA multiplied by 2.5 that was $100,000, so a very tiny business. Now, by creating toolkit, by creating intellectual property monetization, we quadrupled the valuation of the business.
Wow.
Why is that? It's because intellectual property monetization is something that pretty much everyone can do if they actually study what they do and how they do it. So instead of selling your service to somebody, you actually own a method that effectively create a product for someone else. It's the same business, but it's actually a very different proposition. So intellectual
Right,
property monetization is the first pillar of success. Now,
right.
studies shows that you got 1,000% more chance of getting funded if you can show an investor that you own intellectual property. Um,
Interesting, yeah.
the second pillar is succession. Now, after you created intellectual property, first of all, you have to control your intellectual property. You have to defend it as well, and you have to monetize it as well. The next thing that really makes a business really creates transferable value is succession planning. And
How's that? How's that? How does that figure into their valuation?
well, effectively, an investor would like to buy a business not because it sells a good product, effectively, not because the founder works hard, but they concentrate on one particular matter, which is really buy transferable value. Now,
Mhm.
the value is created and then is transferred only when there is not a dependency. Now, the opposite of dependency is optionality. Okay. So
Mhm.
when the founder creates this structure, uh, he or she will create transferable value. I tend to compare this situation to a sport situation because the founder has to really change identity. After the startup phase, you have to change identity. You're no longer the single point of control in the business. You're no longer the single point of contact for customer, for banks and investor. Now you have to really establish a structure that works, and it's based on three main goals. One, sell; two, produce; three, generate cash flow. So effectively, if we translate this to a leadership, we need to have three leaders who can, one, sell; two, produce; three, generate cash flow. If we translate this into an example of a sport like football, you need an attacker, somebody who can score goals. Then you need a midfielder, somebody who is an operation director, who moves the ball around. And number three, the defender is the finance director, the CFO, the chief financial officer, who makes
I love
sure.
that. I love that example. It makes it very clear, right?
So that's the second pillar of the evaluation triangle. The
So
third part.
first we have the intellectual property, which I suppose well, most founders must be quite aware of that. Don't you think that they have to have their intellectual property protected? And don't you think they feel that way? And when the succession comes in, isn't it sort of like a moment in time where they want to grow, and so they realize that they can't do it all at that point? Or where are these things coming in when you're establishing your IP and your succession?
Well, you see, for example, some businesses and sometimes even consultants or solopreneur, they do this wrongly. They sell feature instead of benefits of value. Yeah. So they
That
say,
is so true. I find that in my own career and also in my own profession. So that's exactly right. And nobody knows these things in this profession. Most of what you're speaking about, I don't see it among many consultants, do you?
absolutely, that's where it's so widespread. So it's almost like, it's like you sell a diamond as if it's a piece of furniture. You got a diamond, you sell it like a diamond. Because in actual fact, actually, when you sell on price, the customer will leave you on price.
Mhm.
When you sell on value, the customer will stay with you on value. That's again, if that's why this go well beyond finance. It's not just a financial subject. You need to know
Mhm.
what value you are creating for your customer. I'll give you a very glamorous case study I went through 9 years ago. It was an hospital bed manufacturer. He built a hospital for $10,000.
Oh, wow.
um,
Wow.
this hospital bed was able to effectively reduce hospitalization waiting time for patients. So every time you do an operation with a hip replacement, you are actually saving the National Health Service with one utilization $5,000. Yeah,
You mean the founder made a hospital bed,
hospital
and
bed. Yeah,
he built it for $10,000 and he sold it to a hospital, and he sold it just as a bed to the hospital.
he sold it as a bed to the hospital, $20,000. Now think about this. You're generating value of $5,000 a day. Yeah. Every time you use the hospital bed, maybe 10,000 if you do two operation.
Wow,
Okay.
wow, wow. What a difference, right?
So instantly you own intellectual property. Why do you own intellectual property? Because of the value you're creating.
Hmm.
What you're effectively doing with the intellectual property monetization, you are treating your customer as a partner. So the customer becomes a big beneficiary of your intellectual property. They may be getting $5,000 a day out of your own utilization. Guess what you do? Obviously, you don't want to charge $5,000 a day. Well, you charge 500, $1,000 a day. The
Hmm.
customer still has the major benefit, and
Hmm.
you will not even dream about actually leaving you because they got so much value from you. So
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And as you're talking, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm thinking of the Gillette razors also, that they are not selling the razors. You can get good razors and they're selling the blades because you got to keep coming back for the blades, right? Is that a similar kind of idea?
that's exactly the same, actually. In actual fact, 9 years ago, I pronounced these words. You need to sell it like Gillette.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
you've
Yeah,
actually, in actual fact,
that's
Gillette sells blades in the same way as Microsoft sells licenses. And in the
oh,
same way as
very interesting.
in the same way as
Go-
Disney sells royalties on movie, on merchandise, you create one content and you make money 1,000 times from one content, from one movie. You sell
Mhm.
merchandise, you sell books, you sell toolkits, you sell video, you sell so many, in so
Yeah.
many ways. Yeah.
Which is all the ways that with your IP, you're adding value, and that's what you're suggesting that companies look at. What is the value you're providing? And so that gives you the valuation on your IP. Then we've talked about succession. What's the third part of the triangle?
The third part of the triangle is global optionality. Now, today
Wait,
in
wait,
the
wait. That's global. Going global,
going
or the
global, yeah.
option to go global. Yeah, what's that mean?
So effectively, investors will love you first of all, one because you got transferable value, intellectual property, and succession planning, but they will love you even more if you are present in more than one market. Now,
Mhm.
normally, the way you become global is by going back to your intellectual property. Uh, if we think about the biggest businesses in the world, that's how they go global. That's how first they establish themselves nationally, and then they will continue to grow globally. One example, I mean, there are thousands of examples. I can give you the example of McDonald's does it through a very sophisticated way, which is franchising. Is the most
Mhm.
sophisticated way to go global. Other businesses do it through partnership, joint ventures. Let's think about, for example, small businesses can actually monetize their intellectual property globally by pairing with a big business. example, the COVID vaccine, we got Pfizer and BioNTech. BioNTech, no one knew about BioNTech until they decided to monetize their intellectual property globally through Pfizer with Pfizer. Now, this is how you go global. You go back, if you already built your business with intellectual property monetization in mind, and if you control intellectual property, not just monetize it, because once you control your intellectual property, you don't even need to sell anything. You just sell the right to sell your intellectual
Oh,
property.
interesting, interesting. So you
Yeah.
simplify it as you go forward because you've already done the work in the beginning to understand what your real value is.
Yeah, Coca-Cola, for example, they started manufacturing bottles in the USA. Yeah, they did not set up a new manufacturing facility in France or Germany. They actually did a partnership with a bottling manufacturer in those countries. Uh, Another way is distribution. Yeah, if you got
Right, right, right.
big product, you can distribute it. There are four main ways of really going global through intellectual property monetization. One is a big group, which is made of thousands of ways, which is partnership or joint venture. Then you go distribution, then you go licensing, and then you go franchising. Now, if you're able to do those things, obviously you are a very, very investable business. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. You make it sound so simple and so easy. But I know a lot of this is hard fought and often through a lot of failures, which points me to your book, which is coming out. Fail is the name of your book. Pivot and scale. Now, I just hate the fact that you put fail first. So I don't understand that. And of course, it's out of the blood, sweat, and tears that you've seen. And I mean, really, I just in the course of my own consulting career, just the failure, and it's so painful. It's because I feel like I typically work with entrepreneurs that are founders, they're growing, or they're people that are leaders in their own corporations. And the rate of displacement or transfer or reduction in force or just failure of the business, it's so painful for me because I'm working with the brightest people. I'm working with the greatest talent. And it's so painful to watch. And of course, they have to do exactly what you just said here. They have to, like, I don't know if they fail fast but they need to learn how to pivot and then they, build again. But man, that's a painful process. So how did you come up with this idea? Well, first of all, what did you go for making a book? It's coming out in March. I think that's great. And tell me a little bit about it and how you came to come to this title and what's the value in it.
Well, felt people scale is not a slogan, it's actually a cycle because it's my observation of the world of the last 31 years. I studied the most successful businesses in the world, they actually went through this cycle. They never really scaled as quickly as they started to do business. First they fell, then they pivoted, and then they scale effectively.
Oh, That's a
So
really, that's a really, I see it from that perspective now, because if you look at organizational development, basically you're looking at kind of a bell curve where they're going up and then they're coming down. And if you do not pivot into something else, I'm thinking of, like Kodak cameras, that when they went digital, they basically lost it. And I think they're coming back now and reinventing themselves. But that's the kind of thing that happens. So an organization can really scale. They're at the top of their peak and then they're done basically. So
I
what did you learn
effectively
when you're looking at this fail, pivot, and scale? You're looking at patterns, I think.
Yeah, effectively, this is what history speaks for itself. Effectively, because we saw it in so many situations. We saw it, for example, there are some businesses that effectively fell before they were successful. And when we look at situation like Apple, for example, Apple did fail. Was actually on the brink of bankruptcy in 1997. before they eventually pivoted towards iPod, towards digital music, and then the iPhone. In actual fact, Apple is such a fascinating story because they pivoted successfully towards the iPod, but then they killed what made them successful to create something even bigger, which is the iPhone, the iTab, and etc. So that's for example a story. But I've
That's a
seen.
really good example. That's a really good example. I'm not even sure that people are that aware that they killed the iPad because some of us are still running around with one. But it's true, isn't it? It's really true what you've said. So that's your example of like a pivot, somebody that they were going down, people weren't still reinvesting in all that stuff. And then they came back with the iPhone. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Really, it's a trajectory.
And the book is made of three parts, effectively. The first one is about the 5 stages, which is there are one startup, two scale up, three stagnation, four crisis, and five exit. Now, each one of these 5 phases has a characteristic. Also the high valuation triangle will adapt to this one of these stages. So I want to cover all those 5 to explain the audience that you can actually feel people scale in each one of those 5 stages. And the second part of the book, the other 2 parts are about the high valuation triangle. Now, the book has 26 scorecard, and it will come also with toolkits. It's not meant to be a motivational book, yeah, because it's not just about making you feel good about what you're going to read about. Of course, some people might feel good because they will find a way to be successful, but it's about really to be a practical guide towards really your journey, towards your business or your life as well. Because let's face it, failed people scale is something that happens to our life every day. So the goal is
It's a
to,
good point.
and it's an evergreen book because the high valuation triangle was good in 2017, it's good in 2026, it will be good in 2080. Sure, somebody will listen to this
Mhm.
conversation another 50 years and they'll say, well, that still works
Still
because
the key. It's still the key because it's history. It's based on patterns of what people are actually doing. And I had something else I wanted to say. Oh, I just wanted to make the point that what I like about where you're going with this is that it's not just another motivational business book, or it's not just a book that's just finance, but it's a book that is looking to give key points of action for execution. So, and I like the fact that you're providing it with a toolkit and with, what are you calling those
scorecard,
frameworks so
yeah.
that you can,
Yeah.
scorecards, so that you can check off how bad are we in this area? It actually is going to give clarity to people, and you're looking to focus on chief financial officers, their teams, and also the CEO and the CXO level of the organization. So you're looking for people to take almost like an audit of their own business, go through the harsh truth of where they are and where they're not. And that in itself causes a lot of upset because you're pointing at me, for God's sake, and I'm going to be defending my territory and I'm going to tell you I'm doing it right. Or I'm going to crawl in the corner. I'm going to become objectionable. I'm going to do everything I can. So this is not just simple stuff. But what I love about it is that you've taken it to another level. So I don't have to say it's Marsha or goofing up here. I can say that, this is a historical pattern. I've been caught in this pattern, and I can take the steps now, move it outside of my own personality, my own talent, my own capability, and say, if we look at this more structurally on an organizational basis, we can actually move us all ahead. It's like that going from, good to great book. But this is focused on the structure and the finance of an organization. And I just love what you're doing here. So tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's part of it is that the narration. There are lots of narration about big businesses, but also small businesses. I've advised it in my career as well. So it's practical about big businesses, household names, but also small businesses with which I worked. Yeah, And so there will be lots of examples, lots of case studies. There will be, for each chapter, will be founders takeaway, but also finance professional takeaway. There will also be, as I said, each chapter will have one scorecard against which you can measure yourself. And you can measure yourself now in 6 months' times, in 1 year, in 2 years' time, because this scorecard and this diagnostic are designed really to really take you all the way into your future. How you're going to progress your business, how you're going to become more investable, more bankable, more commercially valuable with your customers as well. Those are the three big goals, really. So making sure that you build a better business. As we know, books obviously they can be a very big tool for learning, but usually, yeah, what is needed is execution as well.
Yeah,
So
we all know we're supposed to eat our vegetables, right? But before you go there, I want to ask you something because, you're landing in this platform that is radically changing. And it's radically changing because of artificial intelligence. And it's affecting everyone. And a lot of the roles that the traditional kind of CFO reported on is really done with artificial intelligence now. And thank you very much, but we don't actually need you. So this is really interesting that this work now is falling on that platform where it's radically changing in your industry. So can you speak to that for a minute? Because I love the fact that you said, this is going to be relevant 80 years from now. And I think you're right, but I want to make clear to the audience here why that is and what's true about what you've built here. That's going to be helpful to them over time, even through AI.
yeah, I mean, this is where the market is already speaking. The S&P 500 is 90%, the value of the S&P 500 is intangible, which means, it is basically, you cannot touch it on assets, intellectual property and intangible assets. Now, 50 years ago, it was 17%. So our economy has changed so much. And because there's so many people with artificial intelligence asking the wrong question, which AI tool should I use? Well, let's face it, if you got nothing documented in your business, AI has got nothing to scale. So it's not really ChatGPT or Claude that's going to make your business more valuable. It's you structuring your business in a way that you're going to give a job to the AI agent so that the AI agent can actually scale it. So that's fundamental. And in actual fact, because many people they talk about artificial intelligence being the new electricity, I've said this in an article. Well, electricity is really useless if you haven't got a grid, because the grid will distribute the electricity to where it's needed. So the high valuation triangle is the perfect grid for this. And I tend to compare electricity, the grid of the electricity, to the grid for the artificial intelligence. And this is the way I would frame the high valuation triangle with artificial intelligence. Now, intellectual property is a bit like the generator, yeah? Because you need ownership. If you do not own anything, then you're not investable, you're not bankable, and you are very vulnerable, especially with artificial intelligence, even more. Now, while you need to generate electricity, leadership depth is going to give you the transformation. So from generator of electricity to transformer of electricity. That's what happens with with the leadership depth. Because in its execution, of course, you don't just distribute electricity without people who can actually distribute it. The
Yeah,
first
send it there, put it there, take it away from there, put it over here. Right.
so
Take
basically
somebody to do that.
so the electricity is generated, yeah, through IP. Then it's transformed through leadership depth. Then you got a transmission line, which is global markets. Now, electricity needs to travel. If it doesn't travel, then it's useless as well. So that's why you need global optionality. And that's what will make the high valuation triangle even more valuable. Because let's think about this. Artificial intelligence has eliminated all the geographical barrier. Artificial intelligence has eliminated all the barrier to acquire new knowledge. Now, many people make
Exactly.
many people they actually confuse knowledge with intelligence. Knowledge is now available to everyone. It's not a commodity, it's commodity basically. You know, you can actually find it anywhere if you look for it, yeah. Intelligence is the ability to create an outcome from knowledge.
I love that definition. I love that definition. Say that again, because I think that's really important. And I think that is something that upper management or middle management will be really struggling with now. Anybody that has been building a profession on knowledge, forget it. It's not the aspect. That's the key. You know, any 12-year-old can get the knowledge. So what did you just say
And
that
that's
shifts it now?
I would say what I said, it's a key worry also for our education system because we have to change now. So, knowledge versus intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to create an outcome with knowledge because nowadays knowledge is available to everyone. Now, if you're intelligent enough to create an outcome from the knowledge, that's what creates a real execution. Yeah. Now, many people
Right.
struggle with that. They think, "Oh, I got so much knowledge. I asked ChatGPT, it will give me an answer." Fair enough, but what you need is the intelligence to turn that knowledge into execution.
Right.
Because pay
Right.
attention to the phrase, which I say a lot, you know, great strategies are everywhere, but great execution is rare. So that's why you need to really improve. I said this to everyone. You need to ensure that your execution is really what you should be aiming for. Forget about the knowledge you've acquired. Of course, you need it, yeah, but now you need the intelligence to execute, yeah.
That's a really, really good point. And it's so basically what I'm hearing and what you're saying is that well, let me just summarize it like this. We're in a radical shift now across global industries and across the world. And that what you have is you've studied the patterns of how these things work. What was it? You had like startup, what were the phases? It was
Startup,
um
number one, scale up, stagnation, crisis, and exit. Yeah.
yeah, and you've looked at each of these and you've seen that this fail, pivot, scale thing works in there, and that the high valuation triangle works within each of those stages. And you've looked at the patterns. And what you have now, you've created knowledge in kind of a way that I could pick up and read it. But if I'm a CFO, I mean, even as a leader, I can pick it up and read it. I'm sure that you've simplified it sufficiently that somebody like myself could really gain value in it. And I don't mean to say wouldn't. However, I think where you're tending toward now is creating something beyond the book. And why are you looking at that? And what is it that you're looking at? Because I think you're realizing, like many of us, we're kind of in a pivot point ourselves as a world global group of, how are we going to carry on business now in this new thing? So I think you've captured that and you're right on the brink of it. But what are you thinking about as your next stage for bringing this to life and helping people that are going through this stuff?
I will start by saying this, if you already felt that's good because you're halfway of the journey, effectively.
Yeah, you're on the journey already. You're ready to pivot. Yeah, so it should be anybody that's in that place. But I would have to say it's probably most of us, to tell you the truth, because we're reading tea leaves, for God's sake. We understand that we're not stupid. This is what you're working with. When you're working with that level of leadership, you're working with very smart people. I mean, they worked hard to get where they are, and they understand things. Maybe they know them under the old paradigm, but they're not incapable. They're capable people. So they're all reading the tea leaves. So they're going to be ready for what you have to share here. But what are you thinking is, why can't I just read the book and do the store cards and, be happy with that? And what are you seeing that's needed beyond that?
Well, the book will definitely create awareness and knowledge. But as I said, there's a gap between knowledge and intelligence. Now, intelligence is about execution. So what I've created is a life journey, like a community, effectively on Substack, where people can join, and it's live now since this week is gone live. So it's where you're gonna find me once a month on a webinar. So where we're gonna talk about the struggle because each business is unique. End of the day, each situation is unique. Yeah, you can obviously read the book, apply, and it's gonna help you so much because by doing the scorecard, you will understand exactly what you need to do. However, for those who would like really a faster access to myself, to what I've done, to my experience, to my financial intelligence, yes, I created this community on Substack. People can actually join under the high valuation code. But for those who really want true execution, finance professional as well as founders, yeah, I've actually created something deeper, which is the creation of 12 outcomes that will change your business, that will effectively change your professionally, and that will make you successful. It's an intensive program that is gonna last 8 weeks, and it's gonna start on the 8th of April.
I love this. I love this. And you're talking about a small group getting together that goes week by week with you, looking at their own personal or professional diagnostics of their businesses. Because as you've said, every business is unique. So you're going to go through with them how to put this all together and start looking at their organizations like you look at them as a CFO and come up with some of these remedies before it's too late. But when I say before it's too late, I'm not wanting to sell my business now. I'm not looking, why should I be worried about valuation and all this kind of stuff? I mean, why would I be getting into this if I mean, we got all this revenue growth. We're doing a terrific job. And tell me about why I want to pay attention to this stuff now when we're running so fast just to build and stay in place.
Yeah, that's actually a conversation I had this morning with a founder. Basically, the key mistake here is to think that valuation is an event. Valuation doesn't change in just 1 minute, just because you do a calculation. Valuation needs to be engineered. That's what I learned in my professional life over 31 years. Uh, Say, for example, if you want to exit, let's say in 1 month or 12 months, but you have not created your intellectual property monetization structure, then your valuation will suffer. Maybe you will not be able to sell your business altogether because you will not be able to answer the main question from investor. Main question is, what do you own? If you do not own anything, obviously you got no transferable value. So effectively, even if you're never gonna sell your business, you're gonna benefit so much by having better bankability, better pricing with customer maybe, let alone the fact that exit is not necessarily something that has to be a full exit. You can also do partial exit, or you can do no exit at all. But having a high valuation strategy will allow you also to compete in artificial intelligence driven economy. So that's fundamental.
How does it do that? Tell me about that. How does it help you compete in a artificial intelligence community?
Yeah, I mean, this is where by effectively protecting and profiting through your intellectual property strategy, your pricing, you are effectively always selling value to your customer. You're not selling something on price, you're selling something on value by continuously let's say, for example, analyzing competitors, analyzing the market as well, analyzing what's happening near your sector. For example, there is $110 trillion of world GDP created every year. If you want to have a good space in that pie, really, some of the $110 trillion, which is according to Goldman Sachs, is going to $227 trillion in the next 20 years, then you need to know what the rules of the games are, especially when, say, for example, you got something that can be copied or cannot be protected or will not be protected. Well, you need to assume going forward that someone will copy it because with AI, you're so much more vulnerable if you haven't really protected your business in the right way. Now, AI agent, for example, are something else that the only thing that really scale your business, not AI tools. you need to structure your business in a way that you can scale it with AI as well. If you don't do it, your competitor will do it. And
Mhm.
if you do it, your valuation will go higher for sure because the investor they will see much more transferable value than they did without AI implementation for sure. So AI implementation is something really big. And let's face it, Gartner said last year that 40% of AI projects worldwide will fail because business
Yes,
are not
right.
prepared, you know? So
Right. They don't have, well, they don't have the structure that you're talking about that allows them to do anything with it other than use it as like a tool and not something that's helping them scale. I think that's a really, really good point. So what I've learned today is that if I'm a startup and I'm looking to find investors, if I can show um, potential investors that I've got these things in place, I'm going to be a lot more interesting to investors because they're going to see beyond just a sole entrepreneur or founder that's got a cool product. They're going to understand that I got something that's going to be transferable and I'm worth investing in. And that's a great idea. And if I'm a baby boomer, which I mean the number of level of people at the 60-year-old level who are ready to get out of business, they want to exit their business, has really escalated also. And so private equity is actually looking for places to put their equity, and the baby boomers are looking to get out, but they're not going to be a fit if it's only a baby boomer that hasn't got a really strong succession plan. So I think you've really given me some good thoughts today, Matteo. Is there anything more that you want to share? Well, I don't think we actually emphasized sufficiently what you're doing after you put out your book in March is that you're building a cohort of individuals that really want to work with this material and set themselves up for the next 25 years because you're looking at bringing through a small level of professional CFOs and CXO leaders who can then take that work and build it through the next generation. And I think that group that gets on this initial cohort with you is going to be really setting themselves up for good success. They're going to know where they're goofing up. And they're going to know what they have to do to correct themselves. And they're going to be in that place where all that valuation's coming through from the AI. They're going to be in that place to take advantage of it. Do you think so?
yeah, absolutely. That's why these 12 outcomes have been created. They will learn about the high valuation triangle. So they become a much better CFO, CXO founders, you know. There are divided in four group. One is fundability and value foundation. The second one is about leadership, governance, and trust. The third one is about scale, capital, and resilience. And the fourth one will be exit valuation and deal capture. Deal capture in particular, through my experience in mergers and acquisition, which is one of my main activity at the moment. So yeah, there will be plenty. And after these 8 weeks, they will be allowed forever, let's call it like that, into the community. So they'll be able to continue learning. They continue to be able to show their unique situation because let's say each business is unique. Yeah. So you don't want to, obviously, there's a framework that works very well, but you want to accommodate a special situation that a role is there and you want to actually treat each person as unique. Yeah.
I've got to ask you something though, as you're talking. If I'm going to be in a seminar or a cohort, over 8 weeks with a bunch of math in it, I'm not going to be very interested in it. Is it going to be mostly that, or is it going to be something that a CXO person that isn't have the depth of finance able to handle? Who are you actually focusing as your audience?
Well, I'm focusing on executive who are really serious about creating a high valuation, working with a high valuation strategy. In actual fact, any executive, any CFO, any founder will benefit from it. It's designed for this group. Yeah,
You're looking for people that have responsibility to bring capital into the business, right?
as well as executing the business with a high valuation strategy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't, like, you're right, it doesn't, you don't have anything in those AI agents or anything if you can't execute what has to be done on this grid. I love this, Matteo. I think this is going to be a great success for you. And if you give me all the details, I'll put it here on the broadcast and make sure that people can get to you. I'm a little concerned that the book isn't going to be published until March. But the work has to be, the cohorts can start signing up right away. And so if you give me those links, I'm sure you'll make noise with the group that are signing up, that how they can get your book when it comes out, and you'll be posting on LinkedIn. I know I follow you there. Is there something that you want to add for closing here? Just, anything that we haven't covered or that you'd like to really make clear for your audience?
I would say the book is going to be out on the 1st of March. Look forward to it. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Give me your feedback on the book. That would be great. And if you want to join me live, come to Substack on the High Valuation Code, and I'll be able to meet you there.
Okay, and you'll give me all that contact stuff, so we'll have it here for people to see. And it's been great talking with you. I really applaud your work. I think it's coming out at a time that's really going to be meaningful for people.
No, thank you
So,
for your support, Marsha. It's really great, and I just can't wait to see you again on the next chat we're gonna have together. Okay.
thank you so much, Matteo. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao. Ciao.